Listen, I'm not buying this whole mentality of things getting better or improving anytime soon here. And in fact, I live in the camp of assuming that things are going to get much worse. And with the escalation happening over there in Eastern Europe right now, I think the possibility of nuclear exchange or anything on a catastrophic level like that is becoming more and more likely every single day. And now we're getting reports that there's explosions in Transnistria, which is a breakaway region of Moldova. So we're getting other countries involved with this conflict. And however you want to look at it, this whole thing is spreading, and eventually it's going to spread into territory that's going to cause us even more problems. But if you were to pay attention to the mainstream media right now, they would have you believe that things like Elon Musk acquiring Twitter is more important than what's actually happening over there right now. They'll have you believe that things like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is an important thing you need to be paying attention to, rather than the fact that we're about to run out of food, we're going to find ourselves in a conflict, and the possibility of a nuclear weapon being detonated at some point here in the near future is rising. Now, some of those things, they might not happen, and in fact, that's what I hope for. None of us want to see anything cataclysmic occur. Yet the fact is that they are becoming more and more probable every single day. And yet we've seen what has happened here during these times of turmoil. People turn their attention to other things that are more comfortable. They turn their attention to things that literally don't matter in the grand scheme of things, and yet we're supposed to pay attention to it and assume that it's actually more important than anything else that's going on in the world. Anytime they try to divert your attention away from what is actually happening, you should be concerned and assume that the risks are actually much higher than they were before, because that is usually how they strategize their long game, right? And right now we're being told that all these other things and all these celebrities and stuff like that are the thing to be worried about and focused on right this second. Even politics don't matter when it comes to what really could happen here in the very near future. We know food shortages are on their way. We know that the supply chain is completely disrupted, with 20% of cargo ships just waiting offshore because of what's happening in the lockdowns over in China right this second. And we also know that everything that we depend on in our daily lives and our quality of life has changed and became either more expensive, more scarce, or just overall harder to acquire. And these are things that we really need to be paying attention to. If I had to give you one piece of advice right now, it would be to focus on the things that you're going to need no matter what. And so obviously that narrows it down to a few things, right? Food, security, water, a shelter, somewhere to be. Honestly, those things are going to be so much more important than just about anything else when it comes to survival and dealing with what is ahead of us. I am going to really be focusing on food here because although I have quite a bit, I can always get more. And honestly, this is going to be a huge challenge for those of us who have been struggling since the beginning, right? And if you didn't already have food put away, you can put away a lot less food now than you could have a year ago, 2 years ago, and especially 3 years ago. So just because you haven't started yet doesn't mean you can't, but I'm just trying to warn you that by waiting, you're literally taking more and more food out of your mouth every single day. Not to mention everything else that's extremely important. And keep in mind that when things get desperate and times get tough, as we've seen in South Africa and what's happening all over the world right now when it comes to some of these riots, when it comes to the people being upset about inflation and the cost of fuel and food and everything else, people will eventually take what it is that they need if they can't have access to it otherwise. So if you don't have a way to protect yourself and protect the things that you have stored up and put away, you're not going to be able to hold on to it. These are things you really need to be thinking about right now. Look, the media is going to try to spin everything they can to make you complacent and go back to your living room and chill on your couch and talk about what these celebrities are up to and whose relationships are bad and that Elon Musk has taken over the world, right? But at the end of the day, what's actually important is the fact that this conflict is going to have a lot of consequences for everybody around the world. It could move into the territory of having extreme consequences to where it could change the way our lives operate from here on out, and at the same time the supply chain and everything else isn't fixed and in fact is falling apart more than it was 2 years ago. So things are going to get a lot more difficult, and I'm seeing a lot of normalcy bias and a lot of complacency throughout my daily life, and it's just not something that I think any of us should accept right now as being normal. This is not a normal time we're in. Don't get distracted and keep moving forward, because honestly, these are important times of urgency that you have to do something during, because anything you do is still helping you get that much further. Once that time comes, there's no more going ahead, there's no more moving forward, there's staying in place and having what you have and working with that from then on out. keep that in mind. Don't lose track of the ball, and don't get your attention distracted away from what's really important right now, because I guarantee you that we're going to see some things here in the near future that a lot of us probably never wanted to see, but that time has come, and here we are.